Have you ever stopped yourself from doing something because you were worried about what other people would think? Maybe it was trying to talk to someone you wanted to talk to. Maybe it was trying a new hobby. Maybe it was posting something online. Or maybe it was just you simply being yourself. Whatever it was, there was probably one thought sitting in the back of your mind. What if people judge me? It's a thought almost every single one of us have. And it's a thought that controls more lives than most people realize. But what if I told you that the majority of people aren't paying nearly as much attention to you as you think? Not because they're rude, not because they don't care, but because they're too busy thinking about themselves. Think about it. How much time do you spend analyzing random people's mistakes? How much time do you spend remembering the embarrassing thing someone did around 3 months ago? How much time do you spend judging someone about what they're wearing? Probably not as much. You might notice it for a few seconds, or maybe even a minute, and then you move on. Yet when it's your mistake, it feels different. It feels huge, permanent. It feels like everyone saw it and nobody will ever forget it. But that's because you're experiencing it from your perspective. You're there for every awkward moment, every embarrassing mistake, every failed attempt, every insecurity. You see the entire story, everyone else only sees a small part of it. Psychologists actually have a name for this. It's called the spotlight effect. The tendency to believe that people are paying far more attention to us than they realize they really are. It's like walking onto a stage and imagining a spotlight following your every single move. Except the spotlight doesn't really exist. Most people are too busy standing under their own imaginary spotlight. Think about your average day. You're worried about your future, your appearance, your problems, your relationship, your goals, and even your mistakes. Now imagine everyone else. They're doing the exact same thing. The person you think is judging you is probably worried about being judged themselves. The person you think has everything figured out is probably questioning their own life. The person you envy probably envies someone else. Nobody is as focused on you as you think, and honestly, that's one of the most freeing realizations you can have. Because it means you're allowed to fail. You're allowed to look stupid. You're allowed to try things you're not good at. You are allowed to be a beginner. One of the biggest reasons people never improve at anything is because they're afraid of looking bad at the start. They want to skip the awkward phase. The problem is that every skilled person you've ever admired was once terrible at it. And I could say, so was I. At first, I'm a musician. I like to play this instrument called a saxophone. I wasn't really good at it, and I thought people would judge me for not being good at it. But in reality, I realized nobody cares how good you are at something because they're busy focusing on themselves. They wouldn't care about that. And at some point, every successful person, they were beginners. They embarrassed themselves. And they've even made mistakes. The difference is that they kept going anyways. Most people never reach their potential because they spend their lives trying to avoid the embarrassing part. They would rather stay comfortable than risk looking foolish, but comfort is very expensive. It costs you opportunities, it costs you experiences, and it costs growth. And eventually, it costs regret. Years later, people rarely regret the thing they tried. They regret the things that they were scared to try, the conversations they never started, the goals that they never chased, the risks that they never took, the version of themselves they never allowed to exist, all because they were worried about what other people might think. The truth is that people will judge you sometimes, and that's unavoidable. No matter what you do, somebody will have an opinion. You can be successful and people will judge you. You can fail, people will judge you. And you can even try to fit in and people will still judge you. So if judgment is unavoidable, why let it control your life? Why let the opinions of people who barely think about you determine your choices? Why give strangers that much power? Most people you meet are temporary. Most opinions disappear. Most embarrassing moments are forgotten. And life, it just moves on. And the older you get, the more you realize that everyone is just figuring things out as they go. Nobody ever received the answers that they wanted. We're all just making a big guess. We're all just trying. Which means the things that you are afraid of is often seen as an illusion. A story your mind created. A spotlight that only exists because you believe it does. And once you realize that, something changes. You start speaking a little more freely, you start taking more chances, and start caring less about looking perfect. Because at the end of the day, people who accomplish the most aren't fearless. They simply decide that their goals matter more than their fear of being judged. They stopped waiting for permission. They stopped waiting for approval. They stopped waiting to feel ready. They act anyway. So the next time you're scared to do something because people might judge you, remember this. Most people aren't watching. Most people aren't focused on you. Most people are too busy worrying about their own lives. This prison you've been living in, it has no walls. This spotlight is not real. And the freedom you've been looking for starts the moment you stop treating others' opinions as the moment your life thinks is important. Because nobody cares as much as you think they do, and it's a good thing.